Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Pitch Talk.
We are fans of football dropping vlogs, videos and podcasts on the beautiful game.
Check out our videos on YouTube and Instagram's IGTV,
including special feature segments,
5 minutes with the G,
the Straight Shootin View,
coaching with JBK. We produce, record and edit video content
and audio on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts,
Verbal, Podomatic,
Anchor,
Spotify
and other podcast platforms.
Join the Pitch Talk revolution on Twitter, Instagram,
Facebook
and www.pitch-talk.com.
The pitch is where we eat.
The pitch is where we sleep.
And the pitch is where we talk.
I can see you now. I can see you now and then. I can see you now.
The Straight Shootin View.
Hey everybody, what is up? My name is Straight Shootin LJA and welcome to another episode of the Straight Shootin View. Now, I want to talk about some comments recently made by former Premier League referee and former head of referees out in Saudi Arabia as well, Mr. Howard Webb. Now, Howard Webb has obviously been accused before of being a Man United fan and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not here to talk about that. What I am here to talk about is his comments about former players. And he has recently gone on record as saying that he feels former players should be referees. Now, I am actually in favour of this for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons I'm in favour of former players becoming referees is first and foremost because players have massive influence. And generally, apart from rare exceptions such as a Marcus Rashford, Raheem Sterling, Alex Scott, generally player influence is used in a negative fashion, generally. But there are so many potential avenues that players can use to basically bring more respect to referees. Now, of course, former players are held to a different standard. You look at them as managers, they're held to a bit of a different standard, especially great former players, because great former players are automatically expected to be great managers, and that's not always the case. There are Glenn Hoddle stories out there where, yeah, he was a quality player, but couldn't quite translate that to management, even though he managed England, I know. But there were some times where he'd get frustrated because he'd judge everybody by his standards. So he could pull off a skill in training and be like, right, every player should be able to do that by default. And it's one of them ones where, say, you look at someone like, say, Thierry Henry. He's had, one management job. I think he's in his second now, obviously, with the Belgium national team. But he's not exactly lit the world on fire yet. Steven Gerrard making his way up. Frank Lampard hasn't done amazingly, but it is one of them ones where great former players don't always make the best coaches and don't always make the best managers. There is a difference between a coach and a manager, obvious difference. But Howard Webb, I think is right, but I think it's bang on the money saying that former players should be referees, and also as well, where there is a bit of a representation issue with black and minority ethnic managers and also head coaches. Vincent Kompany is doing brilliantly with Burnley. You got Kolo Touré recently taking on a role in the Championship as well. So it's on the Championship with Wigan taking on a role. So that makes me think, wow, there have been no black and minority ethnic. There have been no black referees since, at the very top level, since Uriah Rennie. And that was, a decade and a half ago at least. And he's recently released a book. So it'd be one of them ones where we as black people are represented heavily as players. So imagine, say, 10% of black players ended up transitioning into being referees, then you'd redress that balance of representation, which I think can only be a positive. Now, I said, former players can bring a bit more respectability for referees, and fans and current players may actually have a bit more respect and a bit more patience with referees, because say like someone like a Frank Lampard, for instance, went into refereeing instead of management, and then obviously he wouldn't be assigned to a Chelsea game, but most fans would probably give him a modicum of respect. Some would do the fat Frank chants and all that, but they may give him a little more leeway from the get-go, as opposed to a referee who maybe has never ever played the game before, or hasn't played football since school but has been training to be a referee since then. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts in that regard. And also as well, what I find, I play amateur league football for Ibis Eagles AFC, shout outs to them, and it's one I was at Ibis Eagles AFC on Instagram and on Twitter. Give them a follow. But it's one of them where I see it as former players will understand the game that bit more. They understand it obviously from a player's perspective, and we may see games where little trips and stuff like that they may not get given, because it'd be like, as a player, you'd be like, nah, get up, come on, like, I know the tricks of the trade, you're not getting that past me. So former players as referees might be a good idea just based on that. But also as well, if you get a lot of former players as referees, they understand the game from the player side. And also as well, you look at committees like the PGMOL, Professional Game and Match Officials, it's one of them ones. They may be helped by having more former players as referees, and also they can be consultants as well. So that actually may help in terms of the formation of rules and helping to formulate rules that players can understand and can respect and can get easily. Because a lot of what I've seen over the decades, you look at the handball rule, you look at the offside rule, both of those are jokes at the best of times, and most people don't even understand either of them, because they keep changing every year. And as I've said before, how are referees supposed to keep up? They're basically working from underneath, because the rules are changing every year and the waters are getting muddied with every single change that the IFAB, among others, bring in. So if you've got former players, there may be a bit more of an understanding as to, wait, you know what, let's boil these rules down. From a player's perspective, I've played with these rules for 15 years, seen them change, seen how it aggravates players, seen how it aggravates managers. Let's change it this way. So, as I said, it'd be the perspective of someone who's actually played the game, especially if they've like quit playing within the last 5 years or so, and then say gotten their coaching badges, gotten their refereeing badges, been on their refereeing courses and all that. It would give a bit more of an understanding from that other perspective, which I think can only be a positive thing. I think it can only be positive. So as I said, as well, the diversity issues within the refereeing corps as well may change. Now, we've recently seen, within the past week of me actually recording this, a South Asian an Asian referee, and I think it was in the Premier League games, the recent round of Premier League and FA Cup games. So it is one of them ones where, and he's a teacher as well, so it was fantastic. But it's one of them ones where it's great to see those ethnic barriers being broken down. But as said, we haven't seen a black referee in a long time, since Uriah Rennie, and that's been a long time. And I know certain referees of colour, and a big shout out to Darrell David of the Amateur Football Alliance. Mustard as a referee, very, very good referee. But it is one of them ones, we need more people like him, and he's a former Pitch Talk Meets guest as well. Pitch Talk Meets Darrell David at youtube.com/Pitch Talk. And it's one of them where we do need more referees stepping up. But obviously we need another referee for this generation, another black referee for this generation to break down those barriers. And it may take a former player to do it. So as said, I'm with Howard Webb, and I agree with his views that former players should become referees. So imagine, say, again, another example, imagine Paul Scholes or Didier Drogba, respected ex-players like that becoming referees instead of just going into the easy route of punditry. So it's one of them where it's like there's a number of different ways to look at this. But you know what? I want to know your views. www.pitch-talk.com. Is Howard Webb right? Should former players be encouraged into refereeing as well as management? Should they be encouraged into refereeing? Would former players make good referees? Which former players do you think would make the best referees as well? I want to know your views. As I said, www.pitch-talk.com is the official website. Let us know your views. You can catch our podcast live on that website as well, on our official website. Speaking of our podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you pick up your podcast, you can find us. GAANA. Also Verbal, VURBL. We are Verbal ambassadors and proud to be so. You can find our podcast on TuneIn Radio, Player FM, so many places. Wherever you pick up your podcast, you can find the Pitch Talk podcast. Subscribe, give us a like, give us a rating, give us a comment, spread the word. Let the people know what you think of the Pitch Talk podcast. YouTube.com/Pitch Talk for all of our videos, including our cup final specials, our amateur, Pitch Talk at the 2022 Southern Amateur League final as well, Senior Cup final. So many other videos on youtube.com/Pitch Talk. Also at Pitch Talk on Twitter. Tweet with us, follow us, see what we are up to. Facebook.com/Pitch Talk. Become a fan, become a friend, become a member of the group. Join the footballing revolution we are working so hard to create. We are at Pitch Talk on Instagram, vlog previews, and much more up there. At Pitch Talk we are on Reddit. We're also on TikTok as well. Have a look for us as well. We've got the Mixcloud archive with a lot of our old archived shows as well, the old Pitch Talk live shows, which we enjoyed doing a bunch. Big shout outs to the G-Man. Check out his podcast, 5 Minutes with the G. Check out Coaching with JBK as well, with Coach Jamie Bailey, aka JBK. And shout outs to Nathan Arsenal as well, another part of the PT family and major contributor to Pitch Talk as well. You know what? I have been Straight Shootin LJA, and on behalf of myself, the G-Man, Jamie Bailey, and Nathan Arsenal, I would like to say thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Take care, peeps.
Join the Pitch Talk revolution.
Check out the official Pitch Talk website.
www.pitch-talk.com. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Pitch Talk.
We are fans of football dropping vlogs, videos and podcasts on the beautiful game.
Check out our videos on YouTube and Instagram's IGTV,
including special feature segments,
5 Minutes with the G,
the Straight Shootin View,
Coaching with JBK. We produce, record and edit video content
and audio on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts,
Verbal, Podomatic,
Anchor,
Spotify
and other podcast platforms.
Join the Pitch Talk revolution on Twitter, Instagram,
Facebook,
and www.pitch-talk.com.
The pitch is where we eat.
The pitch is where we sleep.
And the pitch is where we talk.
I can see you now.